Contemporary society has built an ambitious project, the near total elimination of mental idleness, the obliteration of any moment in which the mind can simply be, without occupation, without external stimulus. And it succeeded. The success was so absolute that few even recognize what was lost in the process, for there is a disturbing correlation that psychological data leaves beyond doubt. As boredom disappeared, depression, anxiety, and a deep sense of emptiness rose in proportion. Two sides of the same coin. The question is no longer whether people are unhappy. The question has become, why does no one seem able to be alone with their own thoughts for more than a few seconds? Before we begin, please remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps us a lot and costs you nothing. Let's go. There is an uncomfortable truth pulsing beneath the surface of contemporary existence, a truth most would rather ignore while they slide a finger across the nearest device. There is a hidden price paid for the abolition of boredom, a cost that does not manifest immediately but gradually, like a silent erosion of the soul. Those who believe they have achieved liberation by escaping boredom may, ironically, be walking toward a more insidious form of prison. To grasp the current situation, one must first understand the basic workings of the human mind. When boredom arises, when habitual cognitive occupation vanishes, a specific neurological mechanism comes online. This mechanism does not have a particularly complex name, but it functions with extraordinary sophistication. The brain's default mode network. The default mode network is essentially a set of neural structures that activate when the mind is not focused on specific external tasks. It's what happens when you forget your phone at home. It's what occurs when you sit on a park bench, waiting for time to pass. It's what emerges in moments of true cognitive inactivity, when no external distraction claims your attention. In these instances, the brain does not switch off, as one might imagine. On the contrary, it activates a different operating system, a mode of processing which, although less directed, is profoundly meaningful for human well-being. The nature of this activation is not comfortable. This is important to understand. When the default mode network engages, it tends to steer thought into uncomfortable territories. The mind begins to wander. It reflects on questions of meaning. It questions the purpose of existence. It inquires into personal significance. These are the fundamental questions that form the structure of a coherent life. But they are also questions whose contemplation can generate considerable discomfort. And it is precisely this discomfort that modern society has learned to avoid with mastery. A revealing experiment was conducted in an academic setting where researchers invited participants to enter an empty room. The instruction was simple and absolute. Sit for 15 minutes, doing absolutely nothing. No external direction was offered. There were no books, no devices, no diversions of any kind. There was only a single alternative to complete activity, a button participants could press. Pressing this button would result in a profoundly unpleasant experience, a moderately intense electric shock. The choice seemed obvious. What rational being would voluntarily inflict pain upon themselves? And yet, most participants did precisely that. They preferred physical punishment to the simple act of remaining with their own thoughts for a short period of time. This extraordinary finding is not anecdotal. It signals something fundamental about the psychological state of contemporary humans. Avoidance of boredom has become so compulsive that people will choose to suffer rather than allow their minds to do what they naturally seek to do when left free. The cycle of escape, how we got here. The recent history of technology is, to a large extent, the history of a successful progression in deactivating the brain's default mode network. Each innovation, each app, each new sync feature was designed, often unconsciously, to occupy mental space at the exact moment it would begin to wander. The handheld screen device, that object resting in the pocket of practically every living person, is the perfect instrumentum for this deactivation. Consider a banal scenario. A person stands on the street, waiting for the traffic light to change. 15 seconds. An insignificant amount of time, and yet that tiny temporal gap, that vacuum of cognitive occupation, is immediately filled. The hand goes to the pocket. The screen lights up. What is this if not the systematic avoidance of boredom? Because those 15 seconds of waiting, left unfilled, would likely activate the default mode network, bringing to the surface, if only briefly, the kind of contemplative reflection that, multiplied over a lifetime, deeply shapes character and self-understanding. The accumulation of these small escapes is devastating. It is not the gravity of each individual escape that matters, but the totality of the pattern. Each time a potential moment of boredom is cut short by activating a device, the mind learns that this uncomfortable sensation must be avoided. Each small gesture, repeated millions of times over the course of a life, paves the way to a pathological relationship with contemplative reflection. And here lies the most perverse feature of this dynamic. As boredom is systematically eliminated, it becomes proportionally harder to endure when it inevitably arises. The capacity to be with one's own thoughts atrophies. Like an unexercised muscle, it weakens. And when the mind eventually, despite every effort, becomes idle, the result is not peace or contemplation. It is panic, anxiety, depression, because the thoughts that come, when they finally arrive, do not come to a host who is prepared and receptive. They come to a host who fears them and does not know how to respond. This is the cycle of escape. The more people flee boredom, the less capable they become of inhabiting it. And the less capable of inhabiting it, the more frenzied the attempt to escape. It is a self-feeding loop of meaning. And it is this loop, more than any individual pathology, that explains the epidemic rise of depression and anxiety sweeping contemporary society. The invisible cost of hyperconnection. There is abundant data from multiple fields of inquiry, converging on a disturbing conclusion. People know less and less about the meaning of their own lives compared to previous generations. It is not that meaning is being lost. It is that people are literally not looking for it. And why not look? The answer is simple. Because a way to not look has been found. When a temporal gap arises in daily activity, when there is a moment that would naturally be filled by reflection, that gap is now occupied immediately. Need to stand on the street waiting for a light? Here is a social network. Need to wait in line? Here is a news app. Need to contemplate while eating? Here is a video to watch. The occupation is total. It is a magnificent feat of behavioral engineering. What has been lost in the process is not merely boredom, but the systematic opportunity that boredom provided. During those periods of undirected cognitive inactivity, the mind would naturally begin to interrogate fundamental questions. What matters? Why does it matter? What is worth doing? What does it mean to live well? These are the questions whose contemplation sets the direction of a life. They are the questions that once separated those with a coherent, meaningful life from those simply moving through purposeless routines. But the contemporary structure activates a mechanism that prevents precisely the kind of reflection that answers these questions. And the result is a population increasingly worried, increasingly empty, increasingly desperate for meaning that becomes simultaneously more urgent and more elusive. There is yet another dimension. Data on depression and anxiety reveal not only a numerical increase, they reveal a qualitative shift in the kind of suffering people experience. It is not the suffering that comes from facing real, meaningful challenges. It is the suffering that comes from a sense of emptiness, of lack of purpose, of not knowing why one is doing what one does. It is a particular insidious form of despair, one born not of circumstance, but of the loss of meaning within circumstance. Meanwhile, the capacity to be with one's own thoughts has not merely weakened, it has almost completely vanished. A contemporary child can go days, weeks, months without experiencing a genuine gap of cognitive occupation. Everything is filled, everything is mediated, everything is filtered through a screen or device. And when that child finally finds themselves alone with their thoughts, the experience is often so uncomfortable that rejection is immediate and visceral. The uncomfortable truth about happiness and meaning. There is a widespread assumption in modern culture, so deeply buried that it is rarely examined. Happiness primarily results from avoiding discomfort. This assumption is fundamentally false, and it is the acceptance of it that fuels much of contemporary suffering. Contemplating meaning is intrinsically an activity that can generate discomfort. When the mind engages the great questions of existence, what is my purpose? How should I live? What really matters? There is no guarantee the answers that emerge will be consoling or gratifying. Often they are precisely the opposite. They are challenging. They demand change. They demand responsibility. They demand that one confront the disparity between the life one is living and the life one ought to be living. This is why the avoidance of boredom is so attractive, because while the mind is occupied with continual novelty, while it is engaged in the infinite scroll, while it receives constant stimuli, there is no room for these inconvenient questions. And for many, that is precisely the objective. Not to think, not to question, not to confront the possibility that life could be different. But here is the fundamental truth that data reveal. This avoidance does not result in happiness. It results in precisely the opposite. It produces depression, anxiety, a diffuse sense that something is missing, because the human mind is not equipped to be perpetually entertained. It was not designed for this. For most of human history, there were natural periods of cognitive idleness. There was time to reflect. There was time to question. There was time to build a coherent sense of self and world. A meaningful life is not one in which no discomfort is experienced. It is one in which discomfort is understood, integrated, and transformed into something constructive. And for that to happen, one must first allow oneself to experience boredom, that cognitive discomfort that arises when the mind has absolutely nothing to do but think about itself. The Stoic principle applied to boredom. There is a lesson ancient wisdom offers here, one that philosophers who contemplated the nature of tranquility understood deeply. Not everything that causes discomfort should be avoided. In fact, the systematic pursuit of avoiding all discomfort is an approach to life that leads precisely to what one is trying to avoid: suffering. Acceptance of what cannot be controlled is a fundamental principle. And boredom, though it can be dodged through devices and distractions, will not truly disappear. It will only be displaced. The questions boredom brings to the surface will not cease to exist simply because they are ignored. They will continue pressing from below, manifesting as chronic anxiety, depression, a vague sense that something is wrong. To confront boredom, to remain with it long enough to understand what emerges when one is genuinely idle, is to accept a fundamental truth. Discomfort is not the enemy. The perpetual flight from discomfort is the enemy. And lasting tranquility does not come from a life free of discomfort, but from a life in which discomfort is understood and integrated. The brain's default mode network is not a design flaw. It is a feature that evolved to enable those who possess it to achieve a kind of self-understanding other species cannot attain. The capacity to reflect on one's own existence, to question one's own meaning, to imagine a different life. These are extraordinary capacities, and they require idle time to emerge. The one who can spend 15 minutes in genuine cognitive rest without desperation or panic has begun a journey toward real freedom. Not freedom from discomfort. Life will never be free of discomfort. Freedom from the need to escape. Freedom from compulsion. Freedom to choose how to spend one's own time and what to focus one's mind on. Practice. Rebuilding the capacity to be. For those who wish to return to a more meaningful path, there are concrete practices to implement. They are not difficult. In truth, the difficulty lies not in the practices themselves, but in maintaining consistency in the face of the underlying compulsion to seek occupation. The first practice is simple. When heading into physical activity, any activity involving bodily movement, a morning walk, a workout, any steady movement, leave the device behind. This time should not be filled with podcasts, mediated music, or any external content. It should be time when mind and body are together, where motor activity creates space for contemplative thought to arise naturally. There is a reason the best ideas often emerge during physical activity. A mind occupied with simple, repetitive movement is freed to engage deeper questions. This is especially true when no external distraction competes for attention. Those who complete 30 minutes of movement without technological mediation will find that the time was more mentally fruitful than hours spent consuming content. The second practice is equally simple in appearance, but profound in effect. Examine how your daily commute is spent. If there is travel time, if there are transit moments, if there are periods of waiting, these can be reclaimed. No content need be consumed. Those who complete an entire commute, whether to work or any appointment, without sensory mediation, will discover that the thoughts arising then are often of considerable value. This may seem trivial, but it has been decades since most people experienced it. It has been decades since most people knew how to simply be, without doing, without consuming, without a screen in the middle. The exercise is revitalizing precisely because it is radical in its simplicity. The third practice involves meal times. There is a particular quality to sharing food that has been compromised by the presence of devices at the table. When a device is present, even if not being actively used, attention is divided. There is no full presence with those who are present. There is always that part of the mind considering what might be happening on the device. The practice is simple. During meals, no devices. This changes the quality of interaction, allows true attention to those present, and lets conversation reach depths that technological mediation often prevents. The fourth practice is more challenging. Extended periods without any technological mediation. An hour, half a day, even a full day. During this time, the device is not accessed. And what is important to understand is that what will be experienced, especially at first, is not peace. It is anxiety. It is real discomfort. Because a mind habituated to constant occupation experiences deprivation when confronted with inactivity. The initial sensation may truly be that children are screaming inside the head as dopamine, the neurotransmitter linked to seeking and reward, begins to demand its habitual stimulus. But this passes. And when it passes, when the anxiety subsides and the mind finally quiets, what emerges is a different operating state. It is less dramatic than continuous stimulus, quieter, less immediately exciting, but it is in such a state that genuine reflection occurs. This is how deep questions are approached. This is how real understanding emerges. Reconstructing the capacity for meaning. There is a benefit that arises from making peace with boredom that cannot be properly appreciated without experiencing it. The capacity to be truly engaged in whatever one is doing. This may sound paradoxical. How could accepting boredom lead to less boredom in activity? The answer lies in understanding what boredom really is. Boredom is not an intrinsic quality of any activity. It is a relational state toward the activity. It results from being only partially present, from constantly comparing the current experience to other potential experiences, from waiting for something more interesting to happen. Those who develop the capacity to be completely present, even when the activity in question is not interesting in the traditional sense, will discover that far less of what was previously considered boredom truly is boredom. Most of it was simply inadequate presence. And when one can be genuinely present with anything, with work, with relationships, with the ordinary things of daily life, that thing ceases to feel tedious. It gains texture, complexity, real interest. This is particularly true of relationships. There is an epidemic of loneliness in societies with more digital connectivity than ever before in human history. How is this possible? Because digital presence is not presence. A person can be technically connected to hundreds of others and still be deeply lonely. As long as technology permeates the relational space, attention is always divided. Some part of the mind is always elsewhere. Those who can be completely present with others, that is, those who can genuinely abstain from technological mediation during relational time, will find that the quality of their relationships changes, not because other people changed, but because the quality of presence brought to the interaction changed. This is precisely what so many are unknowingly seeking. Not more digital connection, but less. Not more mediation, but more unmediated time truly present with others. More important still, when someone can be genuinely present with life, when they can abstain from continuous flight, it is in this state that the fundamental questions can finally be addressed: purpose, meaning, coherence, personal significance. These are not questions answered by content consumption. They require genuine reflection. And genuine reflection requires periods of true cognitive idleness. Those who allow themselves to be bored regularly, who maintain periods of 15 minutes, half an hour, even an hour of genuine cognitive inactivity, and remain with that discomfort until it subsides, will have begun a process of deep change. For it is during these periods that the mind, finally free of external occupation, can begin to explore what truly matters. And it is this exploration that eventually yields a life with direction, meaning, and concrete practices for implementation. For those willing to experiment, there are specific protocols found to be particularly effective. These are not abstract protocols. They can be implemented immediately, today, without cost, without equipment, requiring nothing but willingness. The no-device morning protocol. Every morning, ideally right after waking, there is a period during which no device is accessed. Half an hour. The exact length matters less than consistency. During this time, the person is free to move, to think, to be. Frequently, some of the clearest thoughts and most creative ideas of the day emerge then. It is as if the mind, after nighttime rest and before any mediation intrudes, operates at a different frequency. The screen-free meal protocol. At all meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, any time food is consumed where others are present. No device is at the table. No device is visible. This radically changes the quality of the experience. Conversation deepens. Presence intensifies. And there is a secondary benefit often overlooked. Digestion improves when attention is truly present with the food being eaten, rather than divided among multiple stimuli. The daily cutoff protocol. Set a specific time, preferably in the evening, after which no device is accessed until the next day. For many, this is 7 or 8 at night. For others, 6. The specific time matters less than consistency. What matters is a defined point in the day when the person disconnects. This provides not only quality time for personal reflection, but also significant improvement in sleep quality, often compromised by blue light exposure and continuous stimulation. The freeze protocol. Once a week or once every 2 weeks, dedicate an extended period, several hours ideally, during which no technological mediation occurs, no phone, no computer, nothing connecting you to the digital world. This may seem radical, and it is precisely because to the contemporary mind it has become radical. But during this time, some of the deepest reflections are likely to occur. The questions pushed down during the busy week will surface, and there will be space to truly consider them. Designated emergency protocol. For those who fear that cutting connectivity leaves them vulnerable to genuine emergencies, there is a simple solution. Establish that one or two specific numbers, close family, people who truly need to reach you in a real emergency, can call and get through. Configure the device so only these numbers can break through Do Not Disturb or a similar state. This not only solves genuine accessibility needs, but also provides clarity. Anything not coming through those designated numbers is not an emergency. This makes true disconnection possible without the anxiety of missing something truly important. The paradox of true connection. A paradox deserves exploration. The pursuit of greater connectivity through technology often results in less genuine connection. It may seem contradictory, but the data show it repeatedly. Populations with unprecedented access to communication networks experience rising levels of loneliness. People who can message hundreds instantly often feel deeply isolated. The reason is that there is something irreducible about genuine presence that cannot be technologically mediated. A face-to-face conversation, where two people are fully present with each other, where there is eye contact, where the possibility of shared silence exists, creates a quality of connection a device manifestation cannot replicate. It is not about the quantity of information exchanged, it is about presence. This is not new knowledge. It has been understood for millennia by those who reflected on the nature of meaningful human relations. But it is knowledge largely forgotten over the past 20 or 30 years, as technology has been embraced as the solution to what was often not a connectivity problem, but a presence problem. Those who make space in their lives to be genuinely present with others, that is, space where no technological mediation occurs, will find the quality of their relationships changes, not because others changed, but because the quality of presence brought to the interaction changed. And this is precisely what many are seeking without knowing it. Not more digital connection, but less, more unmediated time truly present with others. Confronting addiction. One's aspect requires honest mention. For many, abstaining from technological devices is genuinely difficult, not due to weakness of character, but because these devices have been designed, through sophisticated behavioral psychology research, to be excessively enticing. It is not a matter of willpower, it is that the human dopaminergic reward system has been effectively hacked. This means the first days of implementing these protocols can be genuinely uncomfortable. There may be real feelings of anxiety. There may be a sense that something is missing. There may be an almost physical pull toward the device. This is not imaginary, it is real. The result of a reward system conditioned to expect continuous stimulus and now experiencing relative deprivation. But it is important to understand, this passes. There is an initial period of discomfort, often described as akin to a mind screaming for what it is used to receiving. But it is not permanent. After a few days, sometimes only a few, the anxiety diminishes, the nervous system recalibrates, and what emerges is a different operating state, less dramatic, but more sustainable. More importantly, discovering that it is possible to be without the device, discovering that life does not end without continuous access, discovering that in fact life improves in certain dimensions when the device is absent. This is liberating. It is liberating because it means you are not trapped. It means the choice to use or not use these devices is indeed a choice, not a compulsion. Aligning with the realities of existence. Why does this practice of being bored, this capacity to let the mind wander and allow the great questions to emerge, make a tangible difference to well-being? The answer lies in understanding that humans were not evolutionarily equipped for a meaningless existence. The search for meaning is not a luxury. It is a fundamental psychological need. And there is considerable evidence that when this need is unmet, when one moves through life without a clear understanding of why one is doing what one is doing, the result is exactly what we observe in contemporary society. Depression, anxiety, a diffuse sense of emptiness. But meaning cannot be consumed. It cannot be acquired through apps. It cannot be delivered by a device. It must be constructed. And to construct it, there must be time for reflection, time to question, time for the contours of a truly personal life to gradually emerge. Modern civilization has operated under a mistaken assumption that being busy is preferable to being empty, that having something to do is better than having nothing to do, and so every temporal gap was filled. Every potential moment of idleness was colonized by some form of external stimulus. But this created a population perpetually occupied and simultaneously empty, occupied with things that do not matter, empty of meaning about what does. Consider the life of someone who, from waking to bedtime, is never truly idle. There is always something consuming attention. There is always some screen blinking, some app notifying, something demanding a response. What is the inner life of such a person? What is their self-understanding? What is their sense of direction? These questions often remain unanswered, not because the answers are difficult to find, but because there is never time to even ask them. This mode of existence should be described as alarming. A life without a clear understanding of its own meaning is a life being lived in reaction to external events, rather than in alignment with deep values and personal convictions. It is essentially a life being lived by someone else. The person who designed the app, the person who built the algorithm, the society that insists being connected, is the desirable default state. The alternative vision, a life of real purpose. Another life is possible. Not one of extreme asceticism, not one of total rejection of technology, but a life in which technology is used as a tool rather than a baseline state of being. A life with defined periods of occupation and defined periods of genuine idleness. A life in which the mind has the opportunity to explore what truly matters. Such a life looks different, not because external circumstances necessarily changed, but because one's relationship to circumstances changed. Work that once felt tedious can gain meaning when understood as contributing to something that matters. Relationships that once seemed empty can gain depth when there is genuine presence. Even the ordinary moments of daily life can become rich with possibility when genuine attention is brought to them. This is not romanticism, it is pragmatism. Psychological data clearly show that life satisfaction, what we might meaningfully call happiness, correlates strongly not with the amount of stimulus received, but with clarity of personal direction, the sense that one's life aligns with important values, and the feeling that what one does matters. These arise not from being perpetually busy, but from having genuine time to reflect on fundamental questions. They arise from allowing the mind to wander toward what truly matters. They arise from being fully present, unmediated, with the people and activities that define a life. The Stoic argument against continuous flight. Philosophers who ponder the nature of a life well lived often reach conclusions that seem counterintuitive to the contemporary mindset. One such conclusion is that the perpetual pursuit of pleasure often yields precisely the opposite of what is sought, that avoiding all discomfort is not only impossible, it is undesirable. That the capacity to endure, to remain with what is difficult, is in fact a capacity that enriches life. This understanding runs counter to the logic of contemporary consumption. Consumption works by fostering the assumption that there exists a state of happiness attainable through acquiring the right thing, feeling the right sensation, consuming the right product. But this is an illusion. Reality is that real satisfaction comes not from avoiding difficulty, but from integrating it, finding meaning within it. Boredom is a difficulty, it is an unpleasant experience, and the modern intuition is to flee from it. But there is an alternative understanding. Boredom is an opportunity. During those uncomfortable periods of cognitive idleness, the mind finally has the chance to explore what truly matters, and though that exploration may initially be uncomfortable, It is precisely the sort of activity that leads to a more meaningful life. There is something like training in accepting discomfort. It begins small, being able to rest cognitively for a few minutes without panic. It gradually expands, remaining unmediated through an entire commute. Eventually, it becomes possible to spend extended periods not merely without discomfort, but in a state of genuinely productive contemplation. There is a secondary benefit often underappreciated. Those who are comfortable with their own thoughts, who do not fear the questions that arise when alone with their minds, become significantly more resilient. Life will inevitably bring periods when technological mediation is unavailable. There will be moments of waiting, of travel, of circumstances in which boredom is inevitable. Those who have not developed the capacity to be with boredom will experience these moments as torture. Those who have developed it will experience them as opportunities. The pattern of a reconstructed life. To truly grasp what is being proposed, it may help to imagine a week in the life of someone who has implemented these protocols. Monday morning, the alarm sounds. Instead of reaching for the device, there is an hour of true rest. Perhaps coffee savored quietly. Perhaps a neighborhood walk without mediation. Perhaps simply being. No rush, no need to be connected to anything. The mind, still fresh from sleep, has the opportunity to set a direction for the day. At mealtimes, breakfast, lunch, even coffee, there is genuine presence. If others are present, there is real dialogue. If alone, genuine attention is given to the food, the environment, the moment. It is simple, it is close, and it is fundamentally different from being only physically present while attention is divided across multiple screens and concerns. During daily activity, work or otherwise, there are no earphones, no podcasts, no continuous distraction. There is only what is being done and the mind fully engaged with it. Work has a different quality when performed with genuine attention, rather than with the body present and half the mind elsewhere. At day's end, there is a clear cutoff. The hour arrives, say 7 in the evening, and from that point, no device. There is time to read something of true substance, time for genuine conversation with those who share your space, time for reflection, time to simply be, unoccupied. Once every 2 weeks, there is a full day or half a day without mediation. During this period, questions postponed during the rest of the week can finally be approached. Thoughts that emerge during idle periods can be explored in depth. The general direction of life can be examined. This pattern is not exhaustive or prescriptive. Different people will find different rhythms, but the general structure is defined periods of occupation alternating with defined periods of genuine idleness. Periods where technology is present and used intentionally, and periods where it is absent. Periods where attention is outward, directed at tasks and people, and periods where attention is inward, allowed to wander toward what the mind naturally seeks to explore. The cumulative effects of presence. After weeks or months of these protocols, subtle yet profound changes begin to emerge. Not dramatically, not necessarily in a way easily described as before and after, but a shift nonetheless. First, there is often a decrease in diffuse anxiety, not because life has become problem-free, problems remain, but there is a different quality to them. There is a sense they can be thought through, contemplated, approached with some perspective. Instead of mere sources of panic, they take on the quality of challenges to be met. Second, there is a change in the quality of attention. Those who have spent months or years in chronically divided attention, where the mind was never fully anywhere, discover that the capacity to focus completely on one thing is returning. Work becomes less tedious because it is done with real attention. Conversations become less empty because there is real presence. Even leisure becomes more satisfying because there is full engagement rather than distracted consumption. Third, there is a growing sense of personal coherence. harder to describe but profound in effect. It is the feeling that life is lived in alignment with real values, rather than merely in reaction to external demands. The sense that there is direction, that something truly matters, and that time is being invested in things that carry weight. This, more than anything else, is the real antidote to the spreading depression and anxiety, not medication, though medication may be necessary in severe cases, but the rediscovery of meaning, the reconstruction of a sense of for what and why, the reclaiming of a lost capacity to be truly present, truly engaged, truly alive, and real losses and real gains. The common objection arises, but what if I miss something important? What if an emergency happens and I'm not connected? This objection rests on an assumption worth examining, that being constantly connected provides significant protection against bad events. In reality, for most people most of the time, this is untrue. Genuine emergencies that cannot wait a few hours are extraordinarily rare. And for those that are truly urgent, simple solutions exist. Designated numbers that can always get through, specific people who know how to reach you if something truly needs immediate attention. There is also a widespread confusion between being informed and being connected. The assumption is that constant connectivity means being informed about important things. In reality, what often happens is constant exposure to things that feel important in the moment but are, in retrospect, irrelevant. News that fades in minutes, dramas that do not affect your life, events that, no matter how often you check, you cannot control. What truly matters, what deserves attention and time, is often what is immediately close. The person you are sitting with, the work at hand, the existential question under contemplation. These do not demand urgency. They do not arrive with notifications, yet they are precisely the things that determine the quality of a life. There is a real gain in abstaining from constant connectivity. Time, immense time, hours per day reclaimed, not to do more, but to do fewer things with more presence, fewer tasks completed, but tasks completed with integrity. Less consumption, but consumption with real attention and satisfaction. The wider view, beyond the individual. There is a social dimension often overlooked. The effect of having a population that is truly present, that has genuinely thought about their lives, that has developed a real sense of meaning and direction. When someone has clarity about what matters, genuine clarity born of real reflection, not content consumption, that person begins to make different choices. Professional choices aligned with real values, relationship choices based on real meaning, choices about how to spend time based on what truly matters rather than on what algorithms suggested. Such a population would be significantly different, less easily manipulated by marketing messages, less inclined to spend entire lives working on things that do not matter, less depressed, less anxious, less despairing. And this is precisely why the structures that facilitate constant occupation have an interest in their perpetuation. A bored, reflective population, secure in its values, is far less profitable. There is nothing to sell to someone who knows what truly matters and already has enough. But that consideration goes beyond the individual. For the individual, the question is simpler. What kind of life do you want to live? A life of perpetual occupation but empty meaning? Or a life that, though it offers fewer flashes of continuous stimulus, has real direction, real presence, real engagement? Getting started, the first step. For those convinced, or even just curious, there is a first step you can take today. You need not implement every protocol at once. You need not make a radical change. Introduce a single element. Perhaps it is as simple as this. Tomorrow morning, do not look at your device for 1 hour, just 1 hour. And during that hour, be completely free to do anything you like, except access technological mediation. It may seem trivial, it may seem easy. For some it will be. For others, it may be extraordinarily difficult. precisely because it reveals how strongly the mind has been habituated to constant occupation. Regardless of difficulty, that first day provides data. It provides real information about what has been lost and what can be recovered. Often, once that information is obtained, once the possibility is genuinely understood, the next step becomes easier. There is something deeply liberating in discovering you can be without the device, that the world does not end, that certain things actually improve. It is liberating because it means you are not trapped. It means there is in fact choice. And where there is choice, there is the possibility of real freedom. The path back home. Consider a metaphor. Imagine someone who has spent years in a strange land, so busy adapting that they forgot their home. They forgot how things were there. They forgot their values, their friends, their meanings. Now, there is the possibility of return. Not a return to exactly how it was, time has passed, things have changed, but a return to the possibility of being at home, of being with what matters, of being, at last, genuinely present. This is the path being described, not a path of total rejection of modern life, but a path of reclaiming certain aspects of what has been lost. Reclaiming time, reclaiming presence, reclaiming the capacity to simply be, unoccupied, and discovering that in this state of simple being, life is not empty, it is extraordinarily full. Boredom, then, is not an enemy to be vanquished. It is an invitation to return home, an invitation to be present with your own life, an invitation that rests there always, awaiting only the willingness to answer it. Conclusion: the daily choice. In the end, this reduces to a series of small, daily choices. The choice to leave the device at home for a walk, the choice not to reach for a phone during a meal, the choice to keep evenings free of mediation, the choice to allow periods of boredom to occur without trying to fill every gap with stimulus. These are not spectacular choices. They do not deliver dramatic, immediate gratification, but accumulated over weeks and months, they create a remarkable difference in the quality of a life. Not because external circumstances necessarily changed drastically, but because the internal relationship to life did. There is presence, there is attention, there is rediscovered meaning. And for those who can do this, for those who reclaim their own time, their own attention, their own mind, there is a reward no device can offer. Life seen not as a series of tasks to be completed or events to be consumed, but as an experience to be genuinely lived. Present, real, meaningful. This is the invitation. This is the path, and it is available always to anyone willing to be simply bored. I hope you enjoyed the video, and since you made it to the end, write Armored Wisdom in the comments. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. See you soon.